Morning. Welcome to the July 11th, 2023 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We are glad that you are with us, and for those watching online, we're glad you're joining us as well. We'll begin as we always do with an invocation. Please stand and join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, please watch over our deliberations today as we try to do the best we can for our community and its citizens. Please watch over our first responders and healthcare workers as they do their work. Please watch over our men and women in uniform both here and abroad. We say all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we just had a power failure. No? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Magistrate Putman.
Here.
Magistrate Southard.
Here.
Magistrate Tompkins.
Here.
Magistrate Starks.
Here.
Magistrate Berry.
Here.
Gentlemen, you have in front of you the minutes of the June 27th, 2023 Fiscal Court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections, clarifications, or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First order of business is our broadband bid recommendation, and I think you all received copies of this right after the last meeting, so you could peruse them themselves. I have reviewed these, and we had two bids, as you know, one from Connexon and one from Charter Communications. And a couple of the key differences I noticed were, number one, we made it very clear that the amount of money the county was willing to contribute to the project was $4 million. Charter was asking for 5.3. We asked for a completion date of no later than January 1, 2025. Connexon is agreeing to meet those deadlines with the county contribution, and they only considered $4 million as being acceptable to them. Charter could only commit to finishing the project 12 months after all necessary permitting and pole attachment agreements and other regulatory requirements were finished, and there was no guarantee to our timeline, only theirs. Also, I noticed that their rates were higher than Connexon's quotes, and one of the things we want to do here is to make this project and the service not only reliable but also affordable. So, do you have any questions about the two bids? I would like to recommend that we accept Connexon's bid and move forward after developing a contract to make sure we all understand the milestones for performance and the nature of our payments based on those milestones, and hopefully get as many people as possible in the county high-speed broadband fiber to the home service by the end of 2024.
Judge, do you need a motion?
I do.
I move that we accept your recommendation.
I'll second.
We have motion and a second. Any other questions? We do have representatives of both Connexon and Kenergy with us in case you have any questions of that.
So our contract is going to have milestones. If they're not met, then they don't receive the payment, correct?
Correct.
I will get with representatives of Connexon and Kenergy and come up with a contract, and that contract itself will come back to fiscal court.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Did KU, we got any updates on them? Because I've called them 3 times, so.
I'll talk about that in a moment.
Okay, great. There we go.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Moving forward with that. Speaking of KU, yesterday I got an email from the judge executive in Muhlenberg County, who, like many counties in the region, are very interested in KU partnering with somebody to build out broadband in their service areas, and Conexon has reached out to them. And the judge in Muhlenberg County has suggested that fiscal courts around northwest Kentucky and into western Kentucky that are served by KU send a letter urging KU to partner with Conexon and come up with a solution here. And it's a very simple letter. It basically says, please do this. But their point is to get as many fiscal courts out there as they can do, sign-on or judges anyway. So with your permission, if I can entertain a motion to go ahead and sign on behalf of fiscal court, again, it's a very simple letter. It came in late last night, so I don't have a copy of it.
So
But
moved.
it doesn't commit us to anything other than asking KU to please do this.
I'll make that motion, sir.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions about that?
And Steve's gonna overlook that because I could see the worry on his face.
Well, my question was just, okay, if all of a sudden KU did decide, okay, we want to partner with Conexon, does that affect what we've just done as far as the Conexon Kinergy footprint, or does Conexon come back with another request to the fiscal court for the KU?
They may come
footprint?
back with a request, but I don't think we'll entertain it at that point.
If I understand it correctly, and Leslie may or may not know, and I don't know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but basically we're covering in the same county, so it's going to be joint use agreements, which are fairly easy to get through, and it's just going to expand the footprint. So if you're, placing fiber on a pole route, going down, say, Highway 283, for instance, where there's both Kinergy and KU, instead of going around, now you can also extend down and make another leg. So I think, in my mind, at least from a construction perspective, a build out, that's all it would be. But again,
And,
Much easier, and then hopefully.
yeah.
Yes, that's correct. If we can get an agreement with KU, we would just
Yes, ma'am.
continue on. That way you don't have to parcel out those areas
Yes,
where
ma'am.
KU serves compared to Kinergy. Typically, the KU areas are more densely populated, so I don't anticipate coming back with another request for anything else for KU areas, because those typically, will stand on their own. KU has been talking with Conexon reps and working through that and exchanging information back and forth, so they have been agreeable. They were kind
That's good
of stalled
to
in the
hear.
beginning, but
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. So we look forward to working with KU and going ahead and picking up all of those members as well. Yes.
It's my intention to utilize this one-time $4 million for this much, much larger build-out and leave it at that. And hopefully, Kinergy and Conexon can reach a separate
Right.
deal and fund it themselves.
The $4 million will be for the Kinergy
Yes.
project, and then we'll work on the KU
Yeah,
members
absolutely.
separately.
Well, we appreciate your effort
Well,
regardless.
we
Thank you.
appreciate your support. Thank
Yep.
you all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So I believe we have a motion on sending the support letter. Do we have a second? Yes, we do. Any other questions? And I'll certainly run it by our county attorney to make sure there's nothing that puts us in any kind of trap. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, and we'll be in touch, and let's get that going. Thank you very much. We have a bid request from Nick Stallings, and Mr. Stallings, if you join us.
All right, the only materials that we did not bid in the first part of this calendar year was asphalt. I'm trying something a little different this year, trying to get maybe some better pricing instead of just a wide open market for asphalt. What I'm gonna do is get with the three matchers that's got roads out in their areas. We're going to develop a list of these roads. The roads are gonna be a beginning and ending of locations, and in the bid request, I'm going to put a date of like the last 2 weeks of September or the first 2 weeks of October for paving. What this does is this takes care of the question marks that all contractors have, is when we're going to pave, where we're going to pave, and what time we're going to pave. So that way everybody will have the asphalt index kind of net, or we're going to pave in August, we're going to pave in October. That changes the asphalt index. That's the biggest question mark when they come to bid asphalt. So with the roads where they're going to be at and when we're going to pave, I think that will make these bids a lot closer and a lot better pricing for us as a county. And if we already know we're going to pay, there's no reason to make an open market if we know we're going to pay. So it kind of throws out all those question marks. So if you all will let me, I will get the bids request together. We'll go and get some roads with you all through Mashers. It's got the roads out in the county, and then we will put this out for bid.
I move to let Nick go out for bids.
Yep, and that's above and beyond the intersections and stuff they've already fixed out there in District 1, correct? So this does not include that. I'm talking about the roads that we're going to submit as,
What's that? Oh, yeah.
so this
yeah.
doesn't count any of that, okay?
No, this is, that's all, that's separate, that's the company
Yeah.
paying for all that,
Right.
so, yes.
Right.
This is completely different.
Yeah.
And what I'm hoping to do is open these in the first quart of August, so that way, we can start getting lined up with the contractor and hoping to get these done the last 2 weeks of September, the first 2 weeks of October.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And you want to talk a little bit about bidding out the baler?
Yes, we, as you all know, we had a special meeting, called meeting, but we received a grant for our recycling program to purchase a new baler. The baler's the heartbeat of, if you will, for the recycling center. It bales cardboard, waste paper, office paper, 1 to 2 plastics, tin cans, aluminum cans, everything. Without the baler, there's no recycling center. So what we've seen over the years is everything started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We're having a point now to where we got to cut down all the boxes. So we have a lot of manhandling these boxes before we can get them in a baler because they clog up the baler. Either the conveyor to go in is too small, or the baler itself cannot bale the boxes that we're seeing, that we're getting from some of these companies throughout the county of Henderson County. So we're looking to increase our baler size to a horizontal baler. It's a quicker cycle time, it's a safer cycle time, and it's a better use for our people. So we don't have to cut boxes with saws and things. It's what we have to do right now to make it happen. So what I want to do is go out for bid to see if what markets, what companies out there can match our requirements for a baler, and then we will utilize that grant money that we received to buy the baler. We have a small match, but a 25% match on, 75% free money is definitely something we need for the recycling center. So if you all allow me to, I will put together some specs and we will put that out for bid for the baler, and then and that way we'll see what companies can match our requirements.
I move that we allow him to go out for bids for a baler.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Nick? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Awesome, thank you all.
We are really honored to have with us Julie Wisher, who's Executive Director of the Sandifer Center, which is transforming and evolving into a new entity and with some new missions. And it was recently made aware that they're going to be applying for some state funding that may require our support. And so in order to make sure that you all are aware of that and get your approval, I asked her to come here today and speak on Elevate and all the things that could mean. So Julie, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. You all know us as the Hugh Edwards Sandifer Training Center. We've been around for 57 years. Predominantly for those years, we were a factory, a sheltered workshop, providing employment for individuals with disabilities. Our mission has always been to create pathways to independence for individuals with disabilities, and as our culture has changed, we have had to change. In 2020, we walked away from sub-minimum wage. We are the first in our area to provide pre-vocational training at or above minimum wage. We may have caused COVID by doing that. We started and then we got shut down for 3 months. During COVID, we noticed gaps in our services, and one of those is residential services for individuals that are almost independent but still need some support. We also noticed a gap in individuals that could utilize our services but don't have Medicaid long-term waiver supports, and so how we can reach a broader audience and have a greater impact within the county of Henderson. So over the past 6 months, we have been going to training with the Kentucky Housing Corporation and the Corporation for Supportive Housing, which is out of New York, and we've got 12 acres of land donated on Old Madisonville Road from a generous local businessman, and in August we will be applying for about $12.5 million to build 48 one and two bedroom apartments on that land on Old Madisonville Road. We will do a capital campaign locally to build our services facility on that same land and offer residential supports to individuals with disabilities. It's called permanent supportive housing. I'm on my way to Lexington today for our final training, and we are giving our presentation in front of the Secretary of Health and Family Services, the Kentucky Housing Corporation, and the Director of Rural Development. But what we will provide is a place for individuals who have disabilities. It could be an intellectual disability, it could be mental health. At least half of these units will be set aside for individuals who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless or chronically homeless. And we will become a part of what's called the Coordinated Entry System, which is a statewide system that's kind of carved out by a development district. We would be in the Green River District, and we would participate in the continuum of care with all of those. So we would also be bringing more infrastructure into the county to help serve our homeless population at the same time, which a majority of them have a disability, so it fits right in with our mission.
So again, describe the grant that you'd like me to sign on to.
The notice of funding availability is Kentucky Housing Corporation requires local, all local elected leaders, so you, the mayor, the state representative, and the state senator, to sign off that we've had a conversation. You know, we're applying. You don't have to lift a finger until we get funded. We'll apply in August. We'll be notified by February. Every one of the apartments that will be in the coordinated entry system will also be given a project-based housing voucher, so the rent will be covered. More than likely, our individuals will have either zero income or up to 30% of the average median income. So it pays for itself. There's no debt. It's through part of the federal home funds with the American Rescue Plan, is that what it was? Through COVID. So there's really no financial commitment from you all, just to know that we're getting ready to do it and you think it would be a good thing for the county.
It is a very simple request, simple form for us to just let the Kentucky Housing Corporation know that we're aware and we don't have any issues.
Julie, let me just applaud you and your group for pursuing this. I think it's something much needed in this community, and it'd be a great thing. It really will.
I will tell you, I had no idea. I know 20 years ago I was the director of Habitat for Humanity and didn't really think about the urgent or emergent homeless. But the need is great here. I did not know that until I went to this training and have had my eyes opened. The other thing that shouldn't blow me away, because I love this town as much as you all do, or in this county, but it does, is every person, every group, every service organization that we have approached, whether it be United Way, Matthew 25, River Valley, anyone, Deaconess, anyone, have said the exact same thing. This is so needed, and how can I be a part? And I think my hope is when we get funded, we see this as a a catalyst where we all get to be part of something that's bigger than ourselves and really begin to create an infrastructure that supports the growth and movement in a positive direction for individuals who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless.
We thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I agree,
Thank you.
and I really appreciate, but it's going to have to be, I guess, supervised and someone there that will
Well, yes.
will that come from the grant too?
That will come from the grant. We're also, we provide services through what's called long-term waiver supports, and we are in conversation with River Valley Behavioral Health to create a system of supports for those that enter into this community that don't actually have them at that time. I think the reason the Secretary of Health and Family Services will be at this event tomorrow, there are 4 organizations throughout the state that were selected for this training, is because there are demonstration waivers that can be applied for through Medicaid for what's called permanent supportive housing. Kentucky's behind some of the other states that are just more progressive in how they work with long-term waiver supports, but there's a real opportunity for us to move forward, and we could set the example for how a community our size builds this infrastructure. So in our services budget, we have an 8-to-1 resident to case manager ratio, and then we also have 24/7 staffing on the campus because of the vulnerability of the population, and some of them, because of their disability, may need one-to-one contacts throughout the night or throughout the week. So we have built that into our services schedule with our existing methods of Medicaid reimbursement right now.
If there are any more questions, it'd be nice to take a vote to give me a go-ahead to sign this form allowing KHC to keep the ball rolling. Can I get that from you, please?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Julie?
Just real quick, you're still going to be providing the other services you always have.
Yes.
This would be in addition to.
In addition to, yes.
And how many units?
48.
48 apartments?
48, 32 one-bedroom, and then, I can't do the math in my head, even though I'm a banker's daughter, 16? 32 and 16, is that 48?
Yeah.
Where's Madison School? Yeah, 2-bedroom apartment.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I echo everything that the
Yeah.
others have already said.
You have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you all. I'll keep you all posted.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item we have is one of 2 items we've been looking at. I've been working with our codes department and also our electrical inspector to try to update. We will soon have, I think, the construction permit fee schedule and some tweaks ready for you to consider, but this electrical permit fee schedule, I think, is ready for us to consider. None of the dollar values or the costs are changed for getting an electrical inspection. What is changed is a cap on the amount of money that can be paid to our electrical inspector for any single property in any single year, and that is $10,000. The other thing it does is it absolves us of some liability when it comes to these solar farms, battery farms, potentially wind farms. The state has not anticipated who is supposed to be inspecting these facilities. And in fact, in the state electrical code, it specifically exempts companies that produce power from a state electrical inspection. But I don't think that particular ruling was made, guideline was put in there when solar farms were a consideration. I think that goes way back when the only folks producing power were utilities. So in order to keep the liability and the inspection responsibility from falling onto our county, and I'm sure other counties are feeling the same, especially small counties that may or may not have the ability to inspect these themselves. I'm not even sure we do. After talking with Mike Valines, he was very concerned about his liability because he pays for his liability insurance himself. And so we have inserted in our guidelines, any electrical production or storage facility whose siting and construction are subject to approval by the Kentucky Public Service Commission at the state level shall be deemed a utility and not subject to county electrical inspection. I think the state is working through this right now, but as many of you know, the state has a predilection for putting responsibilities down on counties. And I think they, probably within the next year, I would say they will address this requirement now that we have a proliferation of solar farms. I want to get ahead of it at the county level if we can and say, it's on y'all. We don't want to put ourselves in any kind of legal jeopardy because of the nature of these, the sophistication of these, and probably our lack of ability to do it in a way that is sufficient, if that makes any sense. Does anybody have any questions about that? I'm trying to keep us out of the line of fire.
And Judge, I believe that language you just read is in the state building code itself. So
Right.
that's the state's policy. We're just adopting the state building code policy.
And as I said, it doesn't surprise me if they'll alter this soon.
Correct.
Because they have a whole new wave of very new situations. We have companies that are not technically utilities as we think of them, producing power now, or will be producing power. So again, I would like to get us out of the line of fire. Mike Valines said if at all possible, and he wouldn't have to create his own liability jeopardy there, fine with him. So, and he he is questionable about what involves inspecting these, especially the larger ones. So would that take years? Would that take months? And again, the liability question is big. So I've reached out to the Public Service Commission. They do not necessarily have an answer to this, who's supposed to inspect it. So I am suggesting this as a way to relieve us of the liability.
So if, the problem I have here is if we roll, does the state, do they have us? I thought Mike Valines was the state inspector.
Right. But he's never done one of these. And again, he buys his own liability insurance.
Well, but that's what he gets paid to do.
Well, but if the state wants to hire him to do this, that's great.
So nobody's going to inspect these?
That's what I'm hearing, and that's
Concerns
scary
me.
too.
Well, I'm firmly wanting the state to develop some sort of policy at the state level for inspecting power producers. I don't want to leave it on our shoulders.
I understand.
As I said more than once, I believe they will be addressing this in the near future. But in the meantime, I don't want to give them a chance, if I can, preventively, to throw this at us.
Okay, so they build these solar farms, which are supposed to be coming. Okay, we have something due to negligence or failure of components cause a fire, or so then who's responsible, or how do we protect the the landowners and the adjoining landowners of the county from let's say the construction company's negligence or the solar company's negligence? Who's
They'll have a chance to sue.
Right.
And because these are cited and approved by the Public Service Commission,
Mm-hmm.
I would think that would be the point of contention,
Okay.
not the county.
Okay.
It's my goal, anyway.
And I'm just trying to understand. Just want to make sure that we're, and that's why I
Yeah,
want to ask.
We're in new territory.
Yes.
yes,
And
absolutely.
instead
Which
of
is
waiting,
scary.
instead
It
of
is.
waiting for the PSC to throw this in our lap, trying to get ahead of it.
And I understand where you're going, and I appreciate that. Those questions were in my mind. You know what I mean? How do you
There are a ton of questions. I'm with you.
uncharted territory for sure?
And we can alter this in the future,
Sure.
depending on what the state decides to do. But right now, I'd like to get it in place in case somebody comes to me and says, "What are you going to do about inspecting these solar farms?"
Okay.
State has the responsibility because these are cited and approved by a state PSC.
Okay, I understand
If
that.
that makes sense.
Yep,
Public
absolutely.
service.
And I would, again, this mirrors the state building code. I'm looking at Chapter 27, 2703.2.3. Under power companies, it says, "A permit shall not be required for the installation, alteration, or repair of electrical equipment of a power or public service company for its use in the generation, transmission, distribution, or metering of electricity." So.
That says
the-
permit.
The state, well, that's, the inspection is how you
This
get
is
the
the
permit.
electrical
Right.
inspection guide.
So the inspection is how you get the permit on the building code side. And they're exempted from, on the state level, from the building and electrical permit that you would have if you were building something else because of the Public Service Commission role in that. So in a way, what the judge has suggested here is just adopting the same stance as the state at this point. Now, there may be some questions about exactly what the Public Service Commission is going to be doing with regard to solar generation, and that sounds like a place where they need to develop some regulations.
Right, okay.
We are not altering the construction permit fee schedule to this. We will still inspect their construction methods, but the electrical permit is an animal of itself. The construction permit examination won't include the electrical systems, which are the big albatross there. So, any other questions about that?
So, yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
But what Steve just read is they'll be exempted because they have come through the PSC. Is that
No,
the way you
that's just
understood
state law
that?
right now, state electrical code, which has been in place for a while. But again, I think that was written when only the utilities, the recognized utilities that were permitted in the state by the PSC were producing power.
Right, but that's what it said they would be exempted, right?
From the state electrical code requirements as far as inspections through basically the state building inspectors.
State electrical.
Wow.
State housing.
So-
and construction.
So my question is, other than being more solar panels, how is this any different than the way Mike inspects a personal solar panel?
I think the scale, the connections to the grid are all much larger. I mean, instead of a few dozen square feet on top of a roof, it's thousands of acres. And multiple, what do you call them? Not transformers, but I forget what they're
Power
called.
inverters?
Substations or?
Substations, multiple substations, all connected to larger grids, all connected to these solar panels. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
Which I assume that it's going to be connected to I mean, they got to send it somewhere, so if it's not correct, Kenergy's sure not going to let them hook it up, I guess. That would be.
It's interesting you brought that up because I called Big Rivers. Kenergy is just the distributor. Big
Right.
Rivers is to ask them if they were going to inspect. If part of their business agreement with these solar farms involves their inspection, and they would not return my phone call. They would. I don't think they wanted to commit to being on the hook for the inspection.
Right.
They will do, I think, what they would normally do in doing business with anybody or having anybody connect onto their system, but I don't think, they understood the nature of my call and did not want to commit to anything. And I don't think they would unless the PSC tells them to. And it may get to that point.
So what are these solar companies? I'd like to get a response from them on what they're going to do to be good stewards and good partners. We agreed to let them do what they're doing. So what are we going to have in good faith from them to ensure that we're not going to have any of the issues? I mean, they come to us and ask us for concessions on things.
Yeah, I know, I'm sure, well, I say I'm sure. I would love to see the lease agreements or sale agreements about.
I'm going to see if I can figure it out. I'm going to do some own research. I'll let you know what I find.
Those two things were the only change here. The cap of $10,000 per property per year for our electrical inspector, and then the absolving of local electrical permit examination for solar farms and anything, specifically what it says, anything that's permitted and cited by the Public Service Commission. So, Any other discussion? Well, this is a first reading, so we will read the ordinance.
An ordinance amending the electrical permit fee schedule. Whereas KRS 227.8401A requires each local government enforcing the Uniform State Building Code to issue an electrical permit prior to commencing construction, alteration, or repairs to any electrical system. And whereas KRS 227.4803 states the local government may ordinance fix reasonable fees and establish other requirements for the conduct of electrical inspections within its boundaries. And whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court has not revised the electrical permit fees since October 2015 by ordinance number 15-08, and it is in the best interest and general welfare of Henderson County to revise its electrical permit fees. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the Fiscal Court of Henderson County, Commonwealth of Kentucky as follows. Section 128-11 of the Henderson County Code of Ordinances is hereby repealed in its entirety and replaced with the following. A. General. It shall be unlawful for any person to install, alter, or repair any electrical work covered by this chapter without first obtaining a permit from the electrical inspector. If the cost of electrical installation is less than $200, a permit shall be required, but no fee be charged. The life of a permit may be extended, if necessary, upon application, but all permits shall be voided within 60 days if the work is not begun within that time. If work for which a permit is required commences prior to obtaining a permit, the fee hereinafter provided shall be double, but payment of such double fee shall not relieve any person from full compliance with the requirements of this chapter in the execution of the work performed or any other penalties prescribed. Permits shall be only issued to a licensed electrical contractor, except those issued to the county homeowner or holders of a limited license issued by Electrical Examination Board. Special one-time permits may be issued to others for the installation of specialized systems. Section B, fee structure. Electrical permit fees are hereby established as follows. Single-family residential is $75 per inspection. Industrial and commercial, 1.5% of documented total value of electrical contract, inclusive of labor and material costs. Inspection fees shall not exceed $10,000 per property per year, unless a request by the inspector to increase the maximum for a particular property is approved by fiscal court. For small commercial, $1.25 per amp, based on the size and service enrollment. C, for the purpose of the electrical permit fees, each condominium unit shall be considered as a single-family residential. And D, any electrical production or storage facility whose siting and construction are subject to approval by the Kentucky Public Service Commission shall be deemed a utility and not subject to county electrical inspection. Section 2, inconsistent ordinance repealed. All ordinance or parts of the ordinance in conflict herewith are, to the extent of such conflict, hereby repealed and superseded. Number 3, severability. The provisions of this ordinance are hereby declared to be severable, and if any section, phase, or provision shall be for any reason be declared invalid, such declaration of invalidity shall not affect the validity of the remainder of the ordinance.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'm going to second it, but I know we've had a lot of discussion prior to. Now, what I was hearing was we're talking just about the fee schedule for all those actions. That's
And-
covered now.
yeah,
We're
and
just putting a cap.
Oh.
Right?
Right,
Yeah. Now, the solar farm thing is a whole nother animal.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's almost outside of this thing for what we're
Yeah.
talking about. So, just for clarification, I heard what y'all were asking. I thought they were good questions. Is there anything, our old ordinance, if we didn't change it, was with the solar farms being built, wouldn't really be substantial, other than it was over $10,000 and the percentage what the inspector could collect for doing it, right?
Unless he came back and.
Unless he came, but now he's not, he doesn't have to inspect that.
Right.
Because that building permit was gonna be, or electrical permit was gonna really be a lot higher than 10,000.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it right in my mind, Judge.
Yeah.
Well, and I hear we're gonna come back if we need to and change this ordinance in the event we see some complications with these solar farms.
A lot of it will depend on what the state chooses to do, what they're going to do with this issue.
All right.
And
I call for the question.
so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the reapportionment of magisterial districts, and I hope you all have time to look at the maps that you were given. You requested the larger scale maps, and you had some put in your mailboxes. It took a little while to get these, but I hope you had a chance to look at them, understand them, know where the line starts now, where it ends.
I want to thank Gary. Yeah.
Anything,
Yeah.
anything the county clerk's office would like to add to this? I think you all understood the requirement of reapportionment, but you did ask for these bigger maps, and these are easier to kind of grasp than the ones that were very detailed. Any questions?
I move to approve.
We had reserve-
Oh, already got it right together.
Judge, I believe according to statute, it would be acceptable to read it in summary.
Yeah. Just read the top summary, if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, sir.
An ordinance reapportioning magisterial districts pursuant to KRS 67.045.
And for those joining us who might not have known, every 10 years, the state requires us to rebalance out the magisterial districts to make certain they fall within a range of population, to try to get the population in each district as evenly spread as possible. Committee of Citizens was engaged to do that as per state statute. They completed their work within 2 meetings. A lot of thanks to Chris Raymer at the Planning Commission, who had detailed GIS maps of every district and the households therein. So it went pretty smoothly. And so this would be first reading, accepting their recommendations. So,
This gets it down to a deviation of 2.79 as well, which is really, really close.
yep, the threshold's 10%, and they've done much better than that. So we have a reading of the summary. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Gold, your payments.
Judge, I've got a couple of checks today. The first is a flow-through from the city, $458.33, and a couple of reimbursement checks, $5,462.99 and $5,005.39, bringing this month's and the fiscal year to date's total to $11,426.71.
Move to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Treasurer Ryder.
I have claims today from the general fund to First National Bank of Omaha, which is the clerk's credit card, $1,031.70. This is for clerk training and conferences, and is to come from that appropriation line. From the road fund to Audubon Sand and Gravel, $4,596.25. This is for rock materials and is to come from that appropriation line. From the jail fund to Advanced Document Solutions, $768.43. That is for copier leases and is to come from the data processing equipment appropriation line. To U.S. Bank, which is the credit card, $3,910.88. The majority of this is to come from the training and conferences appropriation lines.
Get a motion to approve the claims.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I also have a cash transfer request. This is a budgeted budgeted transfer, transferring from the general fund to the road fund, $600,000. This is to project the road fund through probably early November, which they will receive their county road aid. It is expected at the end of August, but this is a budgeted transfer.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Just to clarify, in July and August is when we have probably the least amount of revenue coming in. So this is typically when the road department takes the first chunk of its transfer out money from the general fund to get them, going in the first 2 months, and then they begin to have more revenue flow, and that evens
Right.
out. So. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Anybody have any old business? Before we get into good of the county, we did get a resolution sent to us for support from Fiscal Court for Kentucky and Indiana going for a federal grant to help for the I-69 bridge. And this is going to be a large grant. The effect of this, if we're able to get it, if Indiana and Kentucky are able to get it, is to hopefully speed up the timeline of the building of the bridge by 2 or 3 years. Right now, the bridge timeline has it being finished in 2031, and advocates both in Kentucky and Indiana think that's way too long. So one of the things that will help speed up the timeline is more available money. And we are now in the process of gathering as many letters of support, resolutions of support as we can throughout West Kentucky and southwestern Indiana to help the application for this federal grant. Interestingly, I reached out to Sarah Kaufman, who's the Transportation Legislative Assistant for James Comer, Congressman Comer, and asked if she could help me get a letter of support from the entire Kentucky congressional delegation, all the representatives, both senators, with the idea that they could sign on because they believe that what helps Western Kentucky helps Eastern Kentucky, what helps Southern Kentucky helps Northern Kentucky. So helping us by signing on to their support for this grant would not be necessarily overlooking their district, but taking care of the concerns of the Commonwealth as a whole and how I-69 benefits it. And we succeeded. Every single member of the delegation signed on to this letter. You may never see such a thing again.
Pretty smart idea.
And so that's in the bag, and now we're working through as many fiscal courts, mayors, business people, chambers of commerce as we can. And the resolution I'd like to have read is for our fiscal court, offering its support. So if you don't mind, we'll read the resolution and you'll understand what it means.
A resolution concerning support for the Ohio River Crossing Grant funding. Whereas with the completion of I-69 in southern Kentucky and central Indiana by 2024, its Ohio River Bridge will be the missing piece of a 665-mile interstate corridor through Kentucky, Indiana, and Michigan. Whereas the total cost identified in the project financial plan is $1.27 billion, of which $725 million is for the bridge itself. And whereas the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and Indiana Department of Transportation have identified funding for and begun work on the approaches to the new bridge, and whereas the state DOTs have identified the match required for federal funding of the new bridge, and whereas the region is already experiencing the economic benefit from the construction of I-69 throughout Kentucky and Indiana, and whereas the current US 41 cross river system is insufficient to carry the expected I-69 interstate traffic and transportation reliability and redundancy are critical for both local traffic and the movement of goods, with the nearest river crossing 70 miles to the west and 35 miles to the east. And whereas the new I-69 bridge will provide innumerable safety benefits, including a reduction in emergency response times from hospitals on both sides of the river. And whereas seismic zones in the region pose a significant threat with potential damage and closures to the existing Cross River system. And whereas the current funding levels the state DOTs anticipate construction of the bridge won't begin until 2027, expediting the construction of the bridge even by 18 months will provide considerable cost savings and accelerate the positive impact for the entire I-69 corridor. And whereas the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the Indiana Department of Transportation will submit an application for FY23 federal grant funding for the project. Now therefore be it resolved, the Henderson County Fiscal Court supports the application for the funding of the I-69 Ohio River crossing and strongly encourages the U.S. DOT to award the funding for the project.
Get a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Coroner Farmer is with us and would like to make a request.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's a pleasure
morning.
being in front of you. One quick thing before I get on to what we're doing. The coroner's office has been extremely busy again this year. In the first 6 months of this year, we already had 84 cases that we are working between our office, police department, sheriff's department, state police, and the whole bit, which is an increase of our average of almost 20 for 6 months. So our staff has been extremely busy and all with that. Now, the judge asked me to come before you all today to talk about last November, Chief Deputy Don Ferris retired after being with us for almost 16 years. At the time, I didn't fill the spot. I wanted to see how things were going to go working with the staff that we've got. We haven't changed any personnel but one, and most all of our staff has been with us for years. It's not one of these we've got a revolving door. But due to the fact of some how busy we are, some health issues and all I've got going, and way the state is going at this time, that we decided it's time to appoint somebody that if I'm not here will take the responsibility. And I'm asking to do the appointment of Sheila Patterson. Sheila's been with us about 16 years. She's a retired nursing supervisor from up the hospital. She's a very well organized person and all in keeping this up and also in helping keeping the office up and the whole bit. Now right now everybody on our staff is making $13.07 an hour, which is the lowest rate of any county employee that I know of. Now we've researched this, but what I'm wanting to do is, and our budget reflects how our setup is. What I'm wanting to do for Sheila is, since she is going to become an administrative person, is give her a 50-cent an hour raise, which would raise her up to $13.57 an hour and all. Now, that's what I'm looking at this time. Everybody else is staying pretty tight. I've been talking with the people at DOC, JT, and the whole bit. This is the first year in years that they've not done any training for coroners in Western Kentucky. The closest is Bowling Green. Classes full up. Everything else is from Louisville to Moorhead. And so that's going to put an expense on us and everything for sending the people for the mandatory training and all. But we are monitoring it through our budget. I think we'll be okay, but we're working from there. But like I said, today what I wanted to do was ask the court's permission to go and appoint Sheila as chief deputy with the corresponding pay raise and all that I was just talking about.
Okay. Any questions? I have no doubt that this is well needed. The only thing I would say is for next year, if you have any anticipated moves like this, go ahead and bring it up when we're budgeting, so we can, lock it in that way. So-
We kind of carried it on over because we still had Don's extra salary in there, and I think we're going to be okay.
Okay.
Sheila puts in a few more hours than some of the others, but we're going to monitor it. No.
Okay. Any other questions?
I move we approve, Judge.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Bill, you were reaching for the button there.
Well, I was just going to ask, do you foresee possibly having to hire someone in the not-too-distant future to replace Don, or do you think you can continue with the current staffing?
We have already adjusted everything around. And what may seem odd, because how he is, Don couldn't stand retirement and all, and so he had to sit out 6 months and all. It's just like him and his wife, the judge. She's now becoming a traveling judge. But Don has gone back to work over at the Judicial Center part-time. He's going to be our transport driver and all right now with the coroner's office. So he's taken the position that Chris Snow had, and Chris took the deputy spot we had open up for. So there's no personnel changes or wanting to add at this time, unless we more than double the number of cases we already have.
To put a finer point on this, Don is still helping the coroner, but at a greatly reduced role.
Yes.
And I believe he'll only be paid per run.
Yes.
Is that right? Instead of salary. So he will not be performing the same duties he did before.
No,
Yeah.
Don is still certified as a deputy coroner in the state, and we're going to work on keeping his certification up. But he gets absolutely nothing but the hourly rate for coming in and doing the transport for us.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. If there are no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
What's the average age of your deputies?
You really don't want to know.
That's what I was afraid of.
Chris is the youngest one of the group. Our average age is probably about 64, something like that. Randall kind of skews everything because Randall's 80, and then Chris is 46 or 47. So the span is between there for all of us.
Thank you.
We're just like all y'all. We're getting older.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry,
I'm-
I interrupted you there. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
And one more item for the regular, well, we'll go to the good of the county. And we will start with Magistrate Barry, who I believe has a special guest.
We do. Thanks, Judge. Got a few things to say. It won't take long. There are things in our lives that we pass every day, and they blend into our surroundings to the point we really don't pay attention to them. However, if we paid attention, we might see individuals going about their day doing phenomenal feats that makes all of our lives more pleasant and our surroundings more appealing. So at this time, along with the Henderson County Fiscal Court, with Judge Brad Snyder, we'd like to recognize one of these individuals who happens to live in my district, which is District 1. This particular individual lives in the Hills subdivision. If you drive in that area, it is highly possible that you will see him on his daily 3-mile walk or more with garbage bags in hand. He has done this for approximately 20 years. Usually he collects 1 to 2 bags of garbage. On very busy days, he might collect 3 or 4. Among the trash, he has also found credit cards, wallets, keys, other things. Is this his reward? No. He always tries to locate the owners of those lost items. Recently, he was noticed painting the curb at the entrance to the Hill subdivision. And he's frequently seen trimming shrubs, removing dead foliage, cleaning that area, just all kinds of things. So, at this time, along with fiscal court and the judge, it is my pleasure to ask Mr. Phil Brolin, come forward. No. Meet us right up front.
First, I'll give you the floor, Mr. Nolan. We really appreciate it.
Gentlemen, I had no idea that you all would say something like that about me. I came here this morning I thought to assist my sister in a recommendation she has for the county, but I really don't have a lot to say. I've lived here for 20-some years. I guess I tell everybody I'm OCD, blame it on my mother. But I've been walking Highway 60 for many years. Matter of fact, every day, and some of you probably see me. But the trash is always something that offends me, and we have a lot of it today. And I just, it's a personal thing to keep it picked up. And living in the Hills subdivision over the years, we have an entrance there, which Mr. Berry has mentioned, and the association was never completed or formed after Jayco built a number of the homes out there. So I kind of took it upon myself to keep that clean too. And then another gentleman this spring mentioned that we need a new sign because they had taken if you're familiar with the area, they had taken our large sign down. And many of our residents were saying, how do you recognize, how do you separate Wolf Hills from the hills? And so we came up with this idea, and I think it's a really attractive sign. And I didn't build the sign myself, but Mr. Stevenson did. He lives over on Landing Meadows. And so we're very grateful. We try to keep it clean down there. And other than that, kind of took me by surprise there, Mr. Berry. I learned a lot about him. I appreciate him and all the work that he does, but is there something specific you'd like to have for me?
No, you do a good job. Just a few days ago, I saw him in the ditch on Wathen Lane, down in the ditch with a trash bag, and I saw a can and some papers, and he's down in the ditch. And I volunteered out there one day, Phil, with some of the county employees, and I tell you, that is a job. I didn't realize that picking up trash, because you only see half of it driving down. You don't see half of it. You see 10%. And when you get out there walking and picking up trash, it's unbelievable. It's a job. So you do a good job, and it takes a lot of time.
Well, and you'll be surprised what you find in that ditch. It's just kind of, if I don't want it, this is where we put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I just feel like as a citizen, I've always done things like that. And so anyway, I'm honored that you even
Well, thank you.
would mention me here today.
We're glad to do it. And we got a couple things here for you. So, Judge, you want to?
Sure.
do these? And, if anybody wants to take a picture up with the judge, and if y'all come up, family.
First of all, I'll present these gifts to you. One is a trash picker, a reaching tool.
Okay.
So you stay, we're all getting older. Maybe this will help keep you going.
Okay.
And a safety vest, because we want you to stay safe. And we're in the process of getting your name put on the back of this.
Okay.
So be patient. Are we going to
Have another one. There's one. Yeah, he can have that one, and we'll
All right,
exchange it.
well,
when we
you'll
get
have more than one.
I'm
But
honored.
thank you very much.
Okay.
And if you'd like to come up to the dais here, we will take a picture, get a picture or two.
All right.
I got you. I was worried. That's what you need to do.
Right here?
Y'all want to come up here, come up closer. Take a picture. Yeah.
Here, let's take this out of the bag.
Yeah.
Want to try it on for size?
Sure. I see a lot of these around. I just never.
So nobody wants to take a picture with him?
Come
I'll be
on
happy to
up.
take pictures.
Come on up.
They're afraid he's gonna put them to work.
I guess.
Well, I tell you what.
Come on up, so you want to get a picture with you? I'll come up,
Julie and, yeah, sisters, granddaughter, whatever. Come up, we'll take a picture. She was bald, yeah, he thought she was bald.
I came here, thought for another purpose, and then I found out my neighbor works here too, so.
Scoot in there.
Ready?
Our pleasure.
Gentlemen, I thank all of you, okay?
You're
God bless
truly
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you again. Thank you all, and thank you, Master Barry, for pointing out his service to the community. Appreciate that.
All the time.
If nobody else from the audience has anything for good of the county, we will go around the horn. Master at Southern.
I just want to say thank you, Bill, for what you do, because you're correct. If they don't want it, they think the ditch is the place, and that is not. That should not be the thing, but it is, unfortunately. And I don't know how to stop it. I wish we could do more to get it stopped, but.
I talk to our magistrate all the time about that.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah, believe me, she does. If anybody's got any of those ideas, let me know. So, yeah.
District 3 is, man, my roads are looking good. They're mowing. Looks like we got it going on. I'm really pleased. So I think all's good in District 3 other than the trash. And I guess that's a never-ending thing. So,
Unfortunately. That's good to hear about mowing. It's
Yes.
going well that you notice it.
I do, Nick's gone, but I'd like to, he was checking in with the, about mowing, about hiring the mowing out. And we never have got a report on that. I'd like to get with them on that and find out cost-wise.
Oh,
I like that we're mowing, but then I see guys tied up all year long, which is, we've got plenty of other things to do besides mowing a ditch. If we could sub that out, I think, if it's cost-effective.
I agree. I think it's
better.
time for a hard look.
Yeah.
I do.
All's good in District 3.
Thank you. Master Tompkins.
No, just want to say I appreciate it. I like to see civic-minded people that do it just because it's the right thing to do. So thank you, sir. I appreciate your time and effort. Again, same thing Tim said, a lot of good mowing, good work. The county road crew does a great job. I appreciate their efforts helping, the roads be safe and more traversable. So at this time, I think everything's good in District 2.
Good. I was riding in your district down A.C. Walker Road, which is, and on the way to a relative's house, and there was a pretty good pothole there. And it occurred to me that with the winter we had and now with all the rain we've had lately, there may be more potholes forming. And the thing about county roads is they're skinny enough that it's sometimes hard to avoid a pothole. And if they're deep enough, people go faster on county roads, I think, than they do in the city. So it can really wake you up when you hit one of those. So keep an eye out. And our crews are pretty good. If you spot one, they'll come and fill it pretty quickly. Anyway, I was just thinking about that.
No, that's a very good point, and you especially pay attention around culverts and things like that with the way, fields are tiled and things like that. There's a lot of water hitting those spots that didn't normally hit, and like the road collapsing that I found,
That is exactly where this one was over the top of
So
a
that's
culvert.
probably something we need to look at. I'll get with you after this, and we'll see if we can't figure it out.
And we always talk about the value of maintaining our infrastructure, maintaining roads, the cost. And, a couple of years ago, we were urging the state to increase the gas tax to help pay for some of this maintenance that's been deferred forever because they couldn't afford it. Things like potholes damage cars. And the average cost to a Kentuckian for the increase in the gas tax we were talking about would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of $125 a year. Meanwhile, the average cost of damage to cars from lack of maintenance was well over $400, because if you've ever lost a rim or a tire to a pothole, there's nothing cheap about replacing any of that. So if you see something, say something, as they say.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Master Putman.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. And again, I appreciate all that you do. That, like Master Tompkins says, civic-minded individuals are far and few these days. And I can really appreciate what you're doing. I live on a corner with a stop sign. Pretty busy street. And you know, I get all that glass breakage and all that, and I get to pick up all I want to pick up, so I'm going to multiply it as many times as you're out there on that stretch of highway. Again, but thank you so much. And Judge, all is good in District 4.
Thank you. Master Starks?
Thank you, Judge, and great to see everybody here today. And just like everyone else, a big, what we used to say at the radio station, tip of the tower to Mr. Rowland, and he's got a great support system there. And you know, back in the day, we used to have an organization called Operation Community Pride, and that's what you, in a one-man way, is demonstrating, is pride in your community and in your neighborhood. And it's a great example for the rest of us. And I'm sure there's others like Mr. Rowland that are out there. And if you know of them and want to have them recognized, I'd say we'd be more than welcome to hear those types of stories. And who knows, maybe we can somehow revitalize or reinvent Operation Community Pride in some way to take a look at how we combat litter and also beautify our community, because that does so much to tell people that are transients in our area that we do take pride. And I know when I go places, it really stands out, you know, how much litter there is. And that just tells me how committed that community might be to presenting itself, you know, to economic development or just to visitors and general tourism, that type of thing. So it means a lot. So well-deserved, and be safe out there. Speaking of safety, just be real careful. Again, as the judge has just noted on the roads, the potholes, I'd say, are out there for sure. But also be very careful. We've got a lot of activity, as you may know, on that 351 interchange, the overpass with the I-69 project. And it just keeps changing by the minute, it seems like. We had a bad accident there not too long ago, really tied up traffic. So let's just be safe out there, be, you know, keep that speed down, observe that speed limit they have in place, and be careful, because unfortunately we're seeing too many of our road workers getting hurt or killed in our construction area. So just want to encourage everyone to be safe. Let's make it a great summer out there. I think we had a great rodeo out at the fairgrounds just not too long ago. We've got a lot more things coming up, so be listening for that. And I think we also have another special guest with a camera here that maybe the judge might comment on here after I'm done. So everything else, everything is actually moving pretty well in the 5th.
Thank you. Master Berry, anything to add from District 1?
Very little. Thanks again, Phil. Thank your family for coming. I don't know, I know a little bit about what it took to get you here. Your wife was bowling, and I don't know what else they told you, but not telling you the truth, but we had to get you here one way or another. So.
Mr. Berry, after I leave today, I'll speak with the family about this.
Okay, yeah. They need to be truthful. That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, you know, and I'll tell you one more thing. Used to, the trash situation was better because before COVID hit, everything's blamed on COVID, so we'll go to that. And that's really true, because a lot of the inmates got out that was working on those 3 crews. They had 3 crews that picked up trash 5 days a week, if I'm not mistaken. They picked up in every district. Once they got out, they just didn't have them to do that anymore. So I think eventually that's going to come back, because, you know, the recidivism rate, you let out 10 inmates, you get 8 of them back. It just takes time, which is not good. It's good for the trash pickup. So hopefully, you know, I've talked to the jailer several times, hopefully that'll come back and the trash situation will get better. in the future. So that's what we hope. But thank you again. All's good in the first, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Gold?
Judge, things are good in the county attorney's office. Mr. Rowland, thank you again. Just want to echo what everybody else has said. You're a role model for everybody because you're making a difference. We all can. You know, we find that thing that we can do in the world to make a little bit of a difference, and you're doing that with a servant's heart and with humility, and thank you for that. And I was reflecting as we were talking about this. I've got teenage kids, and they're like, oh, what am I going to do with my life, things like that. One of the questions I asked them was, well, what sort of a difference do you want to make in the world? How do you want to do things? And of course, when you're that age, you don't really know, they're thinking about these big earth-changing differences, and say, no, you find some way you can help make the world a better place, and just do it. And if you can find something that you can do that makes you happy, then do that. And trust me, they're going to be hearing about your story tonight and how you're making a difference in your own way. So thank you for that. Speaking of making a difference, I want to thank Ron Burleson here sitting in for Brent Jacobs. Ron is a retired HPD officer and a superstar within the county attorney's office. And thank you for filling in for Brent. Ron, as always, is great, makes a huge difference within our office. And thanks for coming up and helping out on the third floor. Other than that, things are good in the county attorney's office, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Gold, and I'll reiterate thank you to Ron. And my kudos to you, Phil. Love to hear it. I'm really glad that Keith Berry brought this to our attention so we could say thank you more properly. I'm sure there are, as was mentioned, there are 1,000 heroes in this community who probably don't get thanks enough, but we when we get a chance to, we should. And thank you for helping clue us in, and thank you to all the family members who helped lie effectively enough to get him here today. And good job. And also, I do want to follow up on what Mr. Berry said. I think the rodeo, despite some weather challenges, rodeo came off, but the county fair moves on. That's not the only event at the county fair, so be looking for ways to participate. I think the 4-H activities are coming up, and I always like to see those. And I really like to see our fairgrounds being utilized to the fullest extent. We've really worked hard on them. I know Parks Department works hard on them, and the more people that go out and enjoy those facilities, the better. It's what they're there for. Thank you again to the court for the help with I-69, that funding. I hope it works. We'll keep you posted on that. There are a lot of things happening with I-69 now as the construction moves ahead. Mentioned our visitor in court today. Darren Fagley is shooting some video for us for the State of the City, State of the County luncheon coming up July 27th. I hope you all are coming. Check with Kurt Wiesen to make sure that you get a seat. And I hope everybody else attends. I think it is a joint effort of the Lions Club, Rotary, and the Henderson Chamber of Commerce. And we're utilizing Darren's services to shoot some video, not only of Fiscal Court, but our departments, and to make it a little bit more fun than it would normally be with me sitting up there and reciting all the accomplishments, of which there are many, but putting a little polish on that part of my presentation I thought would be good. And so thank you, Darren. And for all the department heads out there who might be listening, if Darren contacts you about coming out and shooting some video, please accommodate him. We're on kind of a short schedule, but we hope to make something that's nice and indicative of all the good work that's going on. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
One more thing, Judge, real quick.
Yes, sir.
I forgot I didn't thank my wife, Sue, for helping me put this together. So she helped me a bunch on that. I better say that because I might hear that later. So
Amen.
There you go.
Keith,
I didn't forget.
Amen. Got to do it.
Got to do it. See, come from the county attorney, said I was a smart man. Don't forget that. That's all.
We'll talk about smart later.
I make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor can leave.